So today's webinar is on the health and medicine databases. As I stated in the description when I sent this information out, we have 13 databases listed under the subject of health and medicine on the Go Wild databases page. And these are appropriate. We have databases appropriate for patrons wandering in looking for specific personal health information in the news, information and databases appropriate for students K through 12, and information and databases appropriate for academic libraries. We have some nursing databases now. And we also have some added databases for specific subjects like physical therapy and sports medicine. I have the highlighter on the subject menu drop down for health and medicine. But before we take a look at those, I want to remind everybody about the remote access. So I'm just going to click over here. Over on the right-hand side, there is a link to log in as a remote user. Our databases are available not only in the public libraries, the school libraries, but folks can use these from home, which is really great for all our students, especially when they are doing research. They go home and they can access that same material. For folks to use them as a remote login, they come over here, log in as a remote user link, and enter their library card and PIN. Now we've set up for the schools to have some other access points, so if you need a simpler access for students, please let us know. Contact me about that. So you type in your library card and PIN, click on Authenticate Me, and now we have a new remote login page. If I had logged in as a user, say in Campbell County, their additional databases would be listed at the top. You'll see that they're by topical breakdown here, including health, medicine, and wellness. To access these databases, I can click on one of those two titles, or where it says More, it will take me back to the databases page we're going to work from. What's different now is because I have logged in with my library card and PIN, anytime I select any one of these databases, it will go straight in and will not keep asking me for my library card and PIN. So just be sure that you promote that remote login so they are working from this page to access those databases from home. Okay, so let's go back here to the Go Wild databases page and take a look at some of these databases we have listed under health and medicine. I just selected that topic from the by subject drop-down menu, and here's the list of the 13 databases. This morning we're going to look at about 7 of those in the time that we have, just to get an idea of what is out there. The first one I want to start with is down here on the list, Medline Plus. This is a database that we get from the National Library of Medicine. I'm going to click on that and bring this database up, and we'll take a look at the page. On the left-hand side, you'll see that there are health topics, drugs and supplements information, including very helpful when you're doing health and medicine research, an encyclopedia and dictionary. And there's some additional information, news items, directories to go find doctors and clinics and things like that. They also have information in 40 languages. So if you're working with patrons and students where English is not their first language, take a look at the different items and languages available. In the center, they always highlight what's in the news. So here's some current health news on asthma and worker injuries. Of course, information about the volcano and the ash and the problems that's causing. And they always have some sort of spotlight. On the right-hand side are some really fabulous pieces that they've added to this database. They have interactive tutorials, so you can get slides, shows about 165 different topics. There's also an information database about clinical trials. It links it out to the clinicaltrials.gov. So if you have somebody doing some research on that, that's a good place to direct them. Down the list here, they also have from the National Institute of Health called Senior Health, and that's not seniors in high school, but the demographic of seniors. What they've done is pull together information specific to that demographic. You'll notice it's also in a larger font, and topics and categories specific to them. So if you have that demographic within your library, it's a great place to have them go looking for information. The next one down are surgery videos. These are videos of actual surgical procedures. So if you're somebody that's going in for some sort of surgery and they want to actually see what's going to be happening, or students doing research, that's another really added bonus to this database. But let's get back to the meat of what you're going to find here in Medline Plus and what most folks will be using it for, and that's the health topics and drugs and supplements. When I click on health topics, it's going to bring up a list of categories. So we've got body locations and systems and a whole list, disorders and conditions, diagnosis and therapy, the demographic groups, and health and wellness. What's really nice about this is if you're working with a certain demographic like teenagers, you can click on that and it's going to bring up information specific to them. So if I click on that, here are the health topics more specific to children and teenagers, and you'll see you can just roam down the list here. You'll see where they've added new items. You'll also see the See Also kind of listing. So if a teenager was looking up something either for a personal health issue or trying to do some research, say on dyslexia, it shows them and links to the terminology that's being used in this specific database. I'm going to click back on the health topics and we'll come back out. So you can come into any one of these, and let me just show you a variety. We looked at children and teenagers. I'm going to click on the personal health issues. Another thing that topic areas that come into our libraries, especially our public libraries, are these very personal things that people need to find, like advanced directives, end-of-life issues, talking to their doctors, things like that. So what's nice about Medline Plus is it's very easy to use. It links to reliable information. If somebody's got something very personal that they're working on, you can show them with a more generic or safe topic how to use this database, and then they can get into this and try and find that reliable information on their own. I'm going to click on health topics again and look at one other one that again might be coming, and that's surgery and rehabilitation. So if folks are coming in, you'll see that there are things here, information about after surgery anesthesia. Someone might be going in for a hip replacement. What this will do is you bring that up, it has information about that, and it's from reliable resources, as you can see, a bit of a diagram on what's going to happen. Then as you scroll down, you'll see that there's an interactive tutorial, information in Spanish, and all of their pages are set up this way with basics and research and multimedia, and then you can scroll down into that specific information. On the right-hand side, they're linking to information within the encyclopedia and related topics. So another great thing to have people do, especially when they're going in for some sort of surgery and procedure. In the health topics, so we can go in by the categories, we can also use these alphabetic listings. So I can click on a letter, for example. I can go into F and then scroll down if someone was looking for information, say, on fibromyalgia, and you can see that the page is set up the same, so patrons and students know exactly where to look for the information. They click on, say, alternative therapy under fibromyalgia, and it drops you within that spot within the listing here. You can see that under each one of these categories, they are linking people to the pages developed by sites and foundations and institutes and organizations who have expertise in that area. So rather than someone flinging themselves out onto scary Google with health issues, this is directing them to sites that can give them great information. All of them have journal articles as well as the organizational information and the informational pages. One of the things that came up, I heard from a teacher, a school librarian I mean, that they have students that are always trying to find good and reliable information. Students are looking up information on STDs. So I just clicked on the S, and let me scroll down here. What you'll see again, like we saw in the other C also, is if the students are looking up STD, it says C, sexually transmitted diseases. You can link on that, go straight to it. Then what's really nice is, because that's not a single topic, it's giving them other topics, other vocabulary to look at, On the right-hand side, other information from the encyclopedia. And then, because they were teens looking for the information, there's also specific to teenagers information here. I can click on that, and it brings me down to this information just for teens. Like I talked about the reliable information, NEMRS, for example, is a foundation, a nonprofit organization devoted strictly to children's health. So you can feel good about sending them to that information. Right above it, you'll see that there's statistical information. So if kids were doing reports and research, then get some statistical information. There's dictionary information, journal articles, and scrolling on up, more information about that. So I'm going to come back up here, and I'm just going to click on the home page. Just come back out here for a second. So health topics, alphabetically by the topic, or by a demographic, or by some sort of topical breakdown. There is also a search box that you can search all of Medline Plus and get topics and news items. A lot of times we have folks coming in looking for information about prescription drugs or supplements, and complementary care is gaining more and more ground, so folks are looking for more and more supplement information. If they've got a prescription in hand or name of a drug that they'd like to look for, you just use this alphabetical listing here and come in and select from the list. So I can select this one. All of their drug information on Medline Plus is arranged the same way, so once you get the hang of where things are located on the page, they all look the same. There is a printer-friendly version, and you can email the full text of this. All of these are hyperlinked in their table of contents, so if you needed to find out more about what side effects, you can click on that and come down to that part on the list. If folks are looking for supplements, it's the second section here, so we can just go in, again, alphabetically, pick a letter, and if somebody was looking up information, for example, about ginseng, we can come into this page. What's additional on this page, because this is not FDA control kind of information, they're bringing in scientific research to help folks make a judgment on this information. So you'll see we've got evidence, dosing, methodology, and selected references so that you know what methodology was used to study this and the references about that information. So let's go down to that section, what makes it different. So here they're giving some information about ginseng, what's been found, how this was studied, and the references about that. So folks can go in pretty well informed about something when they're discussing it with their primary caregiver. Okay, so that's a brief look at a really great one called Medline Plus. Let's go back to our databases here and back to our health and medicine and to our list. Some of the other things on the list here, we'll look at Alt Health Watch, but let's just take a look for a second. And Cochrane, very different, but we'll look at both of those. Then you'll notice that we've got Health and Wellness, Health Reference, Health Source. Gale and EBSCO are two of our big vendors that we have great healthcare information from. And you'll see there's Spanish language and a couple new nursing databases, physical therapy and sports medicine and psychology. So very specific to a field of medicine. So let's take a look at another one that's kind of like Medline Plus, and that's this Health and Wellness Resource Center. It gives you a little bit of a description here, but notice it also has a link to help with this resource. So a lot of these have information on how to search, what you'll find there. There's also another link here that says Problems Connecting. The reason that's there is we looked at remote access using the library card and PIN number. The Gale databases have something called geolocation. So patrons using those outside the library will not need to use a library card and PIN. They'll just have to have a Wyoming IP to access them. But sometimes that gets unstable and they may not access. So we want them to know that even though it's a Gale database, they should not have to do this. Sometimes they might. There's the link. They can go in and put their library card and PIN and still have access to the databases. So let's go into the Health and Wellness Resource Center. And this is another one like we saw with Medline Plus where you can look at, instead of topics, they call it diseases and conditions. You can look up drugs like we saw before. There's a medical dictionary, but they've added something else called health assessment, and we'll look at all their parts here. You'll notice that you do not have to go into the drug tab to look something up. They have it right here on the main search screen, as well as a search screen for journal articles. But let's take a look at how they designed theirs and the information they present. I'm going to go into the Diseases and Conditions tab. Like we saw in Medline, we also have an alphabetic list, so we can come in, go pick an alphabetic letter. So let's compare fibromyalgia in these two databases. Here's how it's presented in the Health and Wellness Resource Center. There is a linkable table of contents, so we can jump to the content within the page. They have a definition, causes and symptoms, key terms, so a lot of good information, but rather than sending them to reliable websites, they've brought this information in to this particular page. If I scroll down farther, they also offer books and periodicals information, as well as a few organizations. So I think these databases are really good, used together to bring somebody that information about a health issue. You can print, email, and download these as well. The tab here for health assessment, let's take a look at that since that's a little different than some of the other ones. What this is giving you are some calculators as well as some other topics. So a little bit different. So we saw that senior health was linked off of Medline Plus. There's information for teenagers. This one has these calculators so that you can go through and get some information, find out some background, and then get some information. So for example, caregiver readiness. We looked at patron issues, personal issues about end-of-life issues and things like that. Here's another piece that you might be able to add to that, and that's this caregiver readiness calculator. And you'll see that there are questions to be answered, kind of a test, and then that's used as a guideline when you're looking for information. And that's just under the health assessment tools. I'm going to go back to the home page here using that tab, and let's look up some drug information. I can click on the tab here, or I can use this search box on the main screen. If I type in a drug, so for example I typed in Ativan, you'll see that I have a list from the drug information for consumers from PDR Health is the most used here. And if I click on that, it brings me in to a screen about the drug. So I get the brand name and generic names, and see the generic name there, why it's prescribed, why you should take it, adult dosing. So it's a little smaller amount of information. So you might, again, use this in conjunction with the information they're getting from Medline Plus. The one thing they have that we didn't see before is this symptoms search box. So if we put something in, like neuropathy, and hit submit, now it's going to bring up drugs where it's indicating for neuropathy. And again, we have the drugs out of the detailed drug information for the consumer as its source. Okay, so now let's go back out and let's do something different and take a look at Health Source Consumer. I can either go back to my Health and Medicine list, or I can use the by title alphabetic list if I know the name of the database. So we're going to take a look at Health Source Consumer. This has 80 full-text consumer health magazines, and we open it up and we'll see that it's an EBSCO database. The reason I'm pointing that out is when we're searching in EBSCO databases, they all look the same, search the same, have the same search mode boxes, the same format on our list of results. So let's use our fibromyalgia search and compare what we get in this type of database where we're getting magazines and journal articles. I'm going to launch that search. So here's our search results. We have 310 items in Health Source Consumer Edition that list or talk about fibromyalgia. My results are down the center here. On the left-hand side, you'll see that it lists source types. So whether I have periodicals, reference, primary source, government documents, whatever in my hit list, those will be listed here. They also list subjects, and notice it says narrow results by. Always watch for that, because some databases it's launch a new search with those subjects. Some databases it's narrow your search with those subjects. Here are my subjects from the articles I brought up. There is a more link, so you can always click on that. What that lets me do is narrow my search using the subjects to be more specific. I can also click on publications and see what sort of publications are coming up in my hit list here. If I wanted to narrow my search, I could also do that by coming into my subject list. So for example, let's add fibromyalgia. And notice across the green bar here, it's added that to my search. So I went from 310 to 38 items. And now I can look at those 38 items. When I go to look at them, a lot of times you have to click on the title, go look at the abstract, find out if it's something you want, come back out to your results list. What EBSCO's done is given me what they call a preview icon. If I put my cursor over the little magnifying glass on the paper, it pops up with my citation information and abstract. It also tells me, as you can see, that it's available in PDF full text. Then I can come down, look at my list using that preview icon to show what I'm getting, and that one's available in HTML full text. So you can always tell if you've got full text, what format, and look at the description, get a lot of information without clicking in and out. If I have decided that I've looked at those or I've narrowed too far, I can always take that off of my breadcrumb trail by clicking on the little X next to that subject, and now I'm back to my original 310. As we scroll down, you'll see that I not only have magazines and journals, but I also have drugs. EBSCO pulls theirs from the LexiPal's drug guide, so you'll get to see prescription information. So let's look at one of those and how EBSCO sets theirs up. You'll see the same kind of abstract and keywords, but as we scroll down, here's how they set up their drug information from LexiPal's. You have a linkable table of contents, so you can always see these same pieces of information for every drug listed in this EBSCO databases. And you can click on that and launch to that part of the page. Okay, I'm going to go back up here, and let's go back to, I'm going to click on the EBSCO host button there, just come back up to the main page. The other thing you can do in a lot of our databases now is that you can search publications. It's up here on the blue bar at the very top. Right next to it, you'll see there's a medical dictionary as well. Most of the health databases have a medical dictionary and oftentimes an encyclopedia. When you might need to use these publications is somebody comes in, they've seen something in a specific journal or magazine that you want to look at, or you just want to see if it's contained in the specific database. I can do it by typing in a title, or I can use the alphabetic listing. So if you had somebody that was looking for something in Runner's World, you can see that Runner's World is included in HealthSource Consumer Edition. It gives me some information. It's full text from 1990 to the present. And I can go and look at specific issues. On the right-hand side, it lists those issues. So if somebody wanted to browse through the most current issue, here's the May 2010 issue, and they can browse through the articles within that issue. The other thing that you can do when you're looking at that record is search within this publication. So now we've discovered, yes, indeed, Runner's World is part of HealthSource Consumer. Now I can do a search. So they were looking for something about coffee and runners. Notice that it has brought the journal title with me. All I have to do is add a Boolean and whatever my search term is. So I'm adding the Boolean and coffee. I know it will accept my Boolean and because it is defaulting to Boolean phrase here in my search modes. If you wanted to know more about the search modes, there is a little question mark here. Click on that and it will tell you about each one of those. So let's do our Boolean search here in Runner's World for the word coffee. So here's all my articles now that refer to that and that talks about coffee. So we can open up an article here. There's the abstract about it, and there's the full text of my article. It is in HTML full text. If it had also been in a PDF format, that link would have been here at the top, and you just click on that. All the articles you can print, email, and save in this database too. Okay, so let's go back and take a look at some other ones before we run out of time. Continuing our tour, let's look at some of those that are very specific to a health field. Let's look at the physical therapy and sports medicine. I'll go back into our health and medicine list here. And you can see we've worked through a few of these, and let's look at physical therapy and sports medicine. Again, it's a Gale database, so it gives them that alternate link in case the geolocation did not work. This one is a very small database. It just has 60 titles in this field of physical therapy and sports medicine. So they're not going to get a lot of hits. So you might want to show them how to use this database in conjunction with perhaps another one, depending on their topic. Gale databases aren't as consistent in look as the EBSCO ones yet. Most of them will look like this, where you've got some information about the database here on the left and your search box in the middle. It does let you limit your results to documents with full text, peer-reviewed. So if they're needing scholarly information only, you can do just peer-reviewed journals. I caution everyone to not do the documents with full text only because, as you know, we own so many databases, 120 some, just 13 in this field, that we may own that in full text in one of our other databases. And you can always search that by looking at the WOLP and the eJournal portal, which is listed on the Go Wild Databases page, as well as if you're in an EBSCO database, I'll show you how to link to it. So I caution you to not do the link to full text. But let's take a look at this Gale database and how they present their information. Since we're in physical therapy and sports medicine, let's look up tennis elbow, since everybody's getting ready for summer here. So they have their list of results, again, down the center, as we've seen before. They have tabs across the top here. 51 academic journals. We can also click on the 25 magazines. If there had been books or multimedia, we could link to those, and there are 2 news items. On the left-hand side, I can refine my results. So if I found that that was just too many items, I could come in here and limit that within these results. But let's take a look at what they're showing here. I've clicked on the magazines tab, and let's pick one out of cross-country skier. Because you've got the academics, you'll get the journals, and on the magazines, you're going to get that general interest kind of magazine. So here's information about tennis elbow in cross-country skier. On the right-hand side, there's also a PDF version that you can click on. You can email and download, just like we've seen in the other databases. But something different in the Gale databases is this little link here that says listen. What that lets you do, if you've got somebody who has some reading issues, dyslexia, language issues, vision issues, this is a way they can come in, and let me turn the speaker on.
881 words. Hide details. Show details. Author S. Stacky Grossfeld.
So what you're hearing right now is some of that abstract information, which is going to be something, if you're using this with a student, to point out the copyright, the abstract information is going to be very literal because it's computer read. So you saw that it was doing the show detail, hide detail, the P12 instead of page. So that might be something to point out. But then
in the morning. What do you think is going on, and will this be an issue when the snow comes? Pain over the outer half of the elbow, that is a
Okay, but then it gets into the text of the article and might be very useful to folks to have that text-to-speech feature. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here and let's open up the academic journals just to see some of the variety there. So now we get British Journal of Sports Medicine, for example, more scholarly information. You can also browse publications in this particular database. We click on that, you get an alphabetic list, and click on a letter here. You can also use the search box for find title. When you come into a Gale database, they have this little pop-up. So if I go down under physical educator or physical therapy, it pops up this little box. It tells me what the organization, association, or publisher is and what the coverage is for full text and for just citations. I can also click on the title then and go on into the publication. Now it said it went way back, but if I scroll down here, this is only showing me 2010. What you have to watch for is over here on the left-hand side, this drop-down menu where you can come in and select another year, and now I can go into those issues and find a past issue, say 1998. I can bring that up, and there's the back issues just by using that publications link. So it's a really great tab in our databases to get into the meat of an issue, browse through the entire issue, or go into a back issue. Okay, so we looked at physical therapy and sports medicine. Let's look at another very specific database in this field, and that's the Alt Health Watch. So I'm going to pick it. This one's looking at complementary medicine, so alternative medicine. If somebody's coming in and they want information about acupuncture, again, herb information, this is a great place to come. It's an EBSCO database, as you can see, so the page is set up the same and will present our information the same. If we put in a search here, let's put in juicing, for example, and click on our search box, and here is our information. One of the things that gets missed when these pages are brought up is down at the bottom, these very tiny little numbers or the word next to get to the next page. Often people will just scroll down and then go back out. They won't see these little numbers to get to the rest of their resources. I'm going to go into one of these. Using the preview icon, you'll see that that shows HTML full text. It's the little magnifying glass with the writing on the paper. This number 23, you'll see, has no writing on the paper, and when we use the preview icon, you'll see that there's no link to full text. I'm going to click on that item and bring it up, and we'll look at why you don't want to click on full text only, because we may have it somewhere else. So this is a January-February 1998 article out of the item or the journal Natural Health. At the bottom of the record, if you're in an EBSCO database, you'll see that I can check full text availability in eJournals. So let me bring that up. It will open our eJournal portal off of the WULP, the Wyoming Union List of Periodicals, and you'll see that we own it from these particular databases from 93 to 99, or if I wanted something more current in full text, these lower ones, 2001 to present, we also own it. So I'm going to pick one since I need a 1998 item that was not available in full text in Alt Health Watch. Again, it's this little drop-down menu on the left-hand side. I'm going to go to 1998. And it was the January-February issue, so I'll scroll down here, click on that. It brings up the list of articles from the January-February 1998 issue. And here is the article that we could not get in full text in the other database. And here it is in full text in another database. So you always have other places to look. If it's not in full text in one database, it may be available in a second one. Okay, I'm going to close these out and come back into, since we were searching in Alt Health Watch, and let's do another search in here. I'm going to click on the EBSCO button, or I could use the search box there at the top of the page to do a new search. So I can also, just to point out, do a Boolean search again. Our Boolean operators are and, or, and not. It helps you be more specific in your searching. So this is telling me it's going to recognize and. Otherwise, most searches would toss that out as a stop word. There's so many ands, of course, they just have to ignore them. And then it would put nausea and acupuncture together side by side, and we want them to look for both nausea and acupuncture within these articles. So then I can launch my search and bring up my list of results. Since I'm doing something like nausea and acupuncture, they might want to have the more academic scholarly journals. So again, I can use my narrow results here on the left-hand side, click on publication type, and narrow it just to the academic journals. And now I have things like Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, Acupuncture in Medicine, more peer-reviewed items for people to look at. In addition to, if I go into an article, the print, email, and save functions like we've seen in all of them, you can also click on the icon here, Cite This Article. It will overlay in these formats, APA, MLA, etc., and then it can be cut and pasted out of here or exported to a bibliographic software. Okay, let's continue on in our overview of our health and medicine databases. I'm going to go back out to the Go Wild Databases page. And this time we're going to go into a database that not a lot of people in the general public will need to use or in public school. It's one called the Cochrane Library. This has so much information in it. It's evidence-based medicine so that you can see what's going on, what research is going on in the health and medicine. But there is so much there that most of us don't need to use. So I'm going to show you Chris's cut to the chase Cochrane Search. What this is going to do again is bring up systematic reviews of research in healthcare. So reviews of interventions research, diagnostic tests. To get to cut to the chase, click on Advanced Search. And then you'll see there's all these things that can search. But what most people are interested in are those reviews. So click the box that says Cochrane Databases Systematic Reviews and then enter your search term. So for example, folks wanting to know about does cranberry juice work with urinary tract infection? So I've entered my search terms. Watch the default here on the right-hand side. So I want that to search all text. So want to know cranberries and urinary tract infections. What's going on in research? Does it work? Here's my list of results. I have reviews and protocols. Reviews means that there's information there that research has been done. Protocol will just tell you the protocol of the research that's going to happen and how they're going to do it. Notice my first one here says cranberries for preventing urinary tract infections. I'm going to click on that, and then we have a lot of information, and you'll see it's a lot of information that most people don't need or can't understand because we're not doctors, physicians, or medical researchers. On the left-hand side here, you'll see there's something called Plain Language Summary and Author's Conclusions. That's the pieces that you need. Go to the Plain Language Summary, and now it's going to tell us this may help prevent bladder and other urinary tract infections. Here's what they found. Here's the author's conclusions. So now, if you've got somebody doing research, wanting to know more about it, they've kind of cut to the chase. Here was the research on this particular study. Here's how they did it. Here's what they came up with, so that you have some background information as you're doing other research. So that's all I'm going to show you on Cochrane. Chris's cut to the chase, Cochrane searching, because most of it is such in-depth medical research that you wouldn't mostly need to do that one. Okay, I'm going to go back to our list in our last couple of minutes here. And one I'll show you, if you've got folks in nursing programs or county health nurses or nurses coming in looking for information, we have added 2 nursing databases. This particular one, Nursing and Allied Health, lists it for students pursuing a curriculum here. And Nursing Resource Center looks really good. It has drug overviews, care plans, anatomy and phys diagrams, etc. So let's go in and take a little peek at that one and bring this Gale database up. So here's what another kind of Gale database looks like. You have your search box here, and notice there is some very specific nursing information here at the top. So if you've got folks looking for this type of information, you might want to promote that to them. Let's look at a search here. I'm going to put in shingles, for example, and we'll launch this search just to take a peek at this database quickly to promote to them. There are tabs here, so under the term shingles, we have our Gale Encyclopedia of Medicine, Gale Encyclopedia of Cancer. We have an assessments tab, bringing information in, health assessment and the physical examination, where that would come up, diagnostics, intervention, drugs, journal articles, and related articles. So a lot of information pulled together as based on its title, a resource center for this information. So if this is a one that you might want to promote to nursing students or healthcare providers in your community, I think this is a really good one. I'm going to go back out to our page here as we wrap up. What you might want to use, speaking of promotion, is to come into this page. And right now with these 13 databases, you can print this front to back on 2 pages. It does say 3, but that's just a little text at the bottom. To create a nice handout of these, since they do have a basic description, and get that information out to students or your community for this healthcare information. Because of the cost and people trying to do their own research and us trying to get them from just going out onto scary Google alone, this lets us get them to reliable information, whether they're doing research for school or a personal health and wellness issue. We're also going to try to work up some sort of bookmark or other promotional information on our health databases, so watch for that. This particular session will be archived. If you go to the Wyoming State Library's homepage, you'll see that we have the archives of the webinars here listed under featured sites. The other thing I wanted to point out is on the Wild Databases page, you'll see that we always do a Have You Tried? So if you have folks interested in genealogy right now, or they're watching that NBC series, Who Do You Think You Are? And they're talking about ancestry, here's some information about our genealogy databases. And I just point that out because the May database of the month will be on genealogy, and Elaine from the Laramie County Library will be doing that session. So watch for that announcement for May's database of the month. Okay, I'm going to bring our list back up and see if anybody has any questions before we wrap up today.
Chris, this is Nikki. Does Medline Plus have a citation tool? Our students love that in EBSCO. Is it something I missed? I haven't seen one, but...
You're asking if Medline Plus has one?
Has any type of citation tool for students?
Well, that's just a good question here. Well, it probably doesn't, because it's sending them out to individual sites, so they'd have to cite it. But let's, I bet they have something to cite the page. But since the health topics actually go, there's not information here except for this, it's coming from these institutes. So my guess is they'll need to cite when they go to the site. Right. Sorry, that didn't make much sense. But so, for example, if we went to this gastric bypass page, it's coming from the Mayo Clinic. Then depending on if they're doing APA, then they'll have to do the APA for that. But that's an interesting question, because it's also, actually they got it from Medline Plus. Mickey, that's a great question. I will look for that, and if I have a link to that, I'll put it, have Jamie add it to the archive link to this Database of the Month archive, or I'll send you an email.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. Any other questions today? All right, well, thanks for coming on, and if other folks needed this, it'll be archived probably on Monday. And have a great weekend, everybody.
You too, Chris. Thank you.
Bye.